You know, Bernie Sanders really went after Trump's so called big beautiful bill in that Senate speech. It was something out of a political playbook, raw and, well, unapologetic.
Yeah, I caught that clip. His passion was absolutely off the charts, right?
Exactly, it's like Bernie completely pulled no punches,
Hmm.
condemning the bill as a handout to billionaires and huge corporations.
Right. And what struck me is how he broke it down, touching on issues like healthcare, housing, climate, and workers' rights all in one go.
Absolutely. He paints this bill as not just a policy tweak, but a full on giveaway to the ultra wealthy.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder about the real beneficiaries in all this legislative maneuvering.
Exactly. It's like he's warning us that if we allow this to pass, we're setting the stage for even more tax breaks for the rich and a serious erosion of protections for the common folks. That kind of policy shift can
Right.
really tilt the balance.
It almost feels like political theater, a dramatic showdown on the Senate floor, wouldn't you say?
For sure. And, it's not just theatrics. Bernie's saying this bill is basically a blueprint for deepening inequality, stacking the deck in favor of those already rolling in wealth.
Yeah, and his language really drives that home. He calls out the bill as essentially um, a legal tool designed to pool more benefits for big industry players at the cost of the average American.
Exactly. And that gets to the core of his argument. It's all about how the legislation is more than just numbers. It's about fundamentally shifting power towards corporate and ultra elite interests.
And he doesn't hold back in naming names. Trump's GOP allies get a serious dressing down for pushing this, don't they?
Absolutely, he calls it one of the most shameful pieces of legislation in modern American history. And it's a
Yeah.
direct confrontation against what he sees as a corrupt system.
But don't you think that kind of blunt rhetoric might be a double edged sword? I mean, while it energizes his base, isn't there a risk of alienating moderates who might find it too extreme?
Well, that's a valid critique. On one hand, his raw energy definitely mobilizes supporters, but on the other, it might deepen partisan divides. It really depends on what message you want to send to the broader public.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance. Sometimes all that fire can um, burn bridges rather than build them, especially in a politically polarized environment.
True. Yet, you have to remember, for Bernie, there's this sense of urgency. He sees this bill as a harbinger, a preview of policies that could lead to even more deregulation and more tax cuts for the
Right.
wealthy down the road. And that looming threat is exactly what fuels his rhetoric.
Right, because if a second term under Trump means more of the same, then everyday Americans could be facing even tougher consequences.
Exactly. It's almost like he's saying, let this pass, and we're on a slippery slope. And that really emphasizes the long term implications. It's all about the bigger picture here.
And if you recall, he mentioned that the bill, with all its loopholes, doesn't just affect one sector, it undermines the entire social safety net.
Yes, absolutely. It's a multi pronged attack. You get corporate tax breaks for the fat cats, while vital sectors like healthcare and workers' rights take a severe hit.
It really makes you question what sort of future we're setting up if policies like these continue to be pushed forward.
Exactly. It's like a domino effect. One policy leads to another, and soon enough, the system is rigged against the majority. A real slippery slope.
And you know, this feels like a calculated move by the GOP, using these measures to harness the financial power of the wealthy and reinforce their political agenda.
Right. And Bernie doesn't just see it as a fiscal issue, it's also a moral question. A stand for fairness, dignity, and the rights of everyday people against a rigged system. It's a defense
Right.
of core societal values.
Though I have to ask, isn't that a bit oversimplified? When you call out a bill in those terms, sometimes the nuances of the legislative process get lost in all the rhetoric.
That's definitely a fair point. Bernie uses a lot of hyperbole, and sometimes it can seem like he's painting with too broad a brush. His focus is more on rallying sentiment than dissecting every detail of the bill.
Yeah, it's like a double edged sword. On one side, it really fires people up. But on the flip side, it might make some feel that the message is too one dimensional.
Exactly. And context is everything. With Trump campaigning for a second term, his warnings carry a double meaning. It's both a critique of current policy and a forecast of what might come.
So, in a way, each word in that speech wasn't just a reaction to the bill, but a prophecy of future policy shifts, more tax cuts, more deregulation, more pain for the working class.
Right. It's like Bernie is laying out a chain reaction. If this bill goes through, it's likely to spark a cascade of actions that hurt everyday folks while padding the pockets of the already wealthy. It's a real cautionary tale.
And honestly, this kind of direct confrontational speech on the Senate floor is almost like a throwback to the days when debates were wilder and more punchy.
Absolutely. It reminds you of those historic moments when big, bold statements were made, defending the rights of working people against entrenched power.
Right, though sometimes I wonder if that style might come off as a bit too old school in today's more nuanced political climate.
That's a fair criticism. The rhetoric might seem a bit dated for those used to more measured debate, but there's something undeniably effective about that raw passion. It cuts through the noise. It definitely grabs attention.
Especially when you consider the stakes: healthcare, housing, workers' rights. If these get undermined, our collective future faces some serious challenges.
Exactly. And that's why his speech resonates. It's not just political posturing, it's a stark wake up call about where our policies might lead us. It's a call to
Right.
re examine what we value as a society.
And you know, even if you don't agree with every single point he makes, his overall message is clear. We need to protect the interests of everyday people from being sacrificed on the altar of corporate gain.
Totally. It forces us to ask, what kind of future do we actually want to build? His criticisms, while fiery, are rooted in a genuine concern for societal fairness and the threat of an unbalanced system. It really makes you stop and think.
And that's the kind of political dialogue that really matters. Blending facts, rhetoric, and a bit of drama to spotlight issues that affect us all.
Definitely. It's a moment that sparks debate and challenges our complacency, reminding us that the balance of power in our society is always up for grabs. Absolutely critical in today's political landscape.
I guess, at the end of the day, whether you love or loathe the rhetoric, this speech is a powerful example of how high the stakes are on Capitol Hill.
Right, and while it might not be everyone's cup of tea, it certainly adds fuel to the ideological fire we see playing out every day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was a deep dive into the dynamics of that speech. It really shows how one moment on the Senate floor can encapsulate a much larger battle.
Absolutely. It's always rewarding to unpack these pivotal moments and remind ourselves why staying engaged in the political process matters so much. Thanks for the insightful chat.